Welcome back to another episode of Tax Month. We hope everyone is staying safe. The topic for today is the amendment introduced by Finance Act 2021, replacing the authority for advance ruling by a board of advance ruling. It is tried that fairness, certainty, convenience, and efficiency are the four corners of taxation. It is imperative that a sound tax administration should provide clarity and certainty to the taxpayers so as to enable them to draw an effective business roadmap. Looking back into the history of AAR, it was constituted to avoid dispute in respect of assessment of tax liability and to provide certainty in respect of a transaction undertaken or proposed to be undertaken. The AAR mechanism has a wide international presence, and many countries such as Australia, New Zealand, US, Germany, Japan have a system of AAR in place. In most of the countries, the authority works under the tax department and is manned by the officers. For example, in Japan, South Africa, Malaysia, the advance ruling is part of the tax authorities and not a separate body. The Netherlands has one of the most efficient, robust, and open system of advance rulings. In fact, it is interesting to note that in Sweden, the members and the deputies are appointed by the government, who are tax experts with experience from various business areas such as courts, authorities, and universities. In India, the AAR pronounces rulings on the applications filed before it, which are binding both on the applicants and the tax department. The persons eligible for appointment as chairman of AAR are retired judges of the Supreme Court and retired Chief Justice of High Court. Earlier in its heydays, the AAR passed several rulings on complex issues of international taxation, which include the famous NatPest and the AIG rulings on allowability of benefit of the India-Mauritius tax treaty. Lately, in the past few years, the post of the chairman and the vice chairman have remained vacant, which impacted the disposal and thus eroded the efficacy and trust in the system. Although pronouncements of orders by the AAR should be made within 6 months of the receipt of the application. However, practically it takes around 4 to 6 years, while globally a ruling is pronounced within a defined period varying between 3 to 6 months. In fact, recently the Supreme Court, in the case of National Cooperative Development Corporation, categorically observed that there have been an increasing number of applications pending before the AAR, and due to its low disposal rate, the average time taken for disposing of the applications is approximately 4 years. It would also be interesting to note that the disposal rate for each year for the last decade has not exceeded 25%. And as on March 2021, more than 450 applications were pending disposal before the AAR. In the memorandum to the Finance Bill 2021, it has been stated that on account of non-availability of eligible persons, the posts of chairman and vice chairman remained vacant for a long time, resulting in large number of applications pending for many years, hampering the work of the AAR, thereby prompting the need to look at the alternate method of providing advance ruling in a timely manner. Accordingly, the Finance Act 2021 amended Section 245(o) of the Act to provide that the AAR shall cease to operate from a date notified by the government, and one or more board of advance rulings shall be constituted for giving advance rulings. The board for advance rulings shall constitute of 2 members, each being an officer not below the rank of Chief Commissioner. All pending applications along with the records will be transferred from the AAR to the bar, and the orders passed by the bar shall not be binding on the applicant or the department, and either party may appeal against the order passed by the bar for the High Court. Further, all the previous rulings pronounced by the AAR will be grandfathered, and the amendments made by Finance Act 2021 shall not apply to such rules. In that background, there are certain vexed issues that require deliberation, especially relating to efficacy and effectiveness of the bar. By way of this present tax mantra, we aim to brainstorm these issues which may have an impact on the business community at large, especially the MNCs who crave for tax certainty before entering into a transaction. With that background, I would like to call upon Mr. Neeraj Jain to opine on the effectiveness of bar and whether it will go the DRP path.
Thank you, Anshul. Article 50 of the Indian Constitution requires that there shall be a separate judicial service free from executive control. The Supreme Court, in the case of Columbia Sportswear Company, held that the AR is a body exercising judicial power conferred on it by Chapter 19B of the Act and is therefore a tribunal. The Supreme Court, in that case, referred to its earlier judgment in the case of Harinagar Sugar Mills Limited, wherein the object and purpose of creation of a tribunal have been explained, and I shall quote, with the growth of civilization and the problems of modern life, a large number of administrative tribunals have come into existence. These tribunals have authority of law to pronounce upon valuable rights. They act in a judicial manner and even on evidence on oath, but they are not part of ordinary courts of civil judicature. They share the exercise of judicial power of the state, but they are brought into existence to implement some administrative policy or to determine controversies arising out of some administrative law. They are very similar to courts, but are not courts. In the new regime, the responsibility of settlement of tax dispute is entrusted or would be entrusted to tax officers who are subject to the same supervisory authority as that of the assessing officer. And therefore, one is circumspect or doubtful as to a fair trial or fair dispensation of justice. In other words, the advance ruling authority would cease to be a tribunal and instead would be a wing of the department.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. I would now like to request Mr. Vora, Senior Advocate, to give his views on the effectiveness of bar.
Before I respond to your query, I would say that as a person who appeared before the authority for advance ruling when it was first constituted in the 1990s, among the first few cases that came out from the authority for advance ruling, which was headed by then Justice Ranganathan, to somebody who appeared before the AR in the celebrated case of Dassault, which has recently received approval at the hands of the Supreme Court in the later judgment in engineering analysis, and somebody who's appeared as late as January 21 before the authority for advance ruling before this surprise announcement of abolition of the AR. Frankly, I am not able to see the rationale behind this move. The AR was set up with a laudable objective of providing, as you mentioned, certainty and expeditious view to a non-resident seeking to invest in India with respect to either a tax liability or a potential tax liability. That entire purpose is lost when you seek to abolish the AR and replace it with the bar. The composition of the bar, to my mind as a practitioner, does not inspire confidence. The revenue was an adversary against the taxpayer before the authority for advance ruling. Now it will be a revenue body headed by persons not below the rank of the principal chief commissioner who would be deciding these disputes or deciding controversies relating to international investors into India. I really don't know whether it will serve the purpose for which it was set up and whether this migration that will happen of the pending cases from AR to bar, whether taxpayers would like to continue with the bar. And that's probably the reason why you may see some taxpayers opting out of this procedure. So frankly, I am not too enthused with this proposal of, or which has now become a reality, of abolition of the AR and this movement to the bar of wholesale lock, stock and barrel of the pending cases before the AR. Now coming to your point, about whether this can be likened to the DRP. I remember the time that the DRP was formed. We were actually in Washington, and there was a joint conference of the International Fiscal Association India branch and the US branch. And at that time, this proposal came in that having regard to the huge tax involvement, revenue officers tend to take a view in favor of the revenue, and the US taxpayers were feeling the brunt of long drawn litigation that was happening with respect to their matters, and India had opened up at that time. So I think Mr. Vijay Mathur, who was part of the India delegation, he probably came back, he mooted this idea with the government, and the DRP was born. What was thought was we would have a collegium of Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals who would decide the appeal and would not be cowed down by the quantum involved in the tax dispute. So the DRP was born. Now the DRP, the way it was constituted, was, I think, flawed from the beginning, because it said that the revenue would not have a right of appeal against the finding of the DRP. So the DRP, went about its task trying to uphold and reserve the right of the revenue to agitate a particular issue which had not yet been concluded by a decision of the High Court or the Supreme Court. Now, I only hope this body, the bar, does not go the way of the DRP. It will then be a failed experiment. If the bar is to act in order to protect the view of the revenue, or in order to ensure that the revenue is not sacrificed in a particular manner, I don't think it will serve the interest of the taxpayer community, especially the international community, nor will it serve the purpose for which the bar is sought to be constituted. So I only hope that it does not go the DRP way.
Thank you, Mr. Vora, for your insightful thoughts. Mr. Jain, according to you, whether there will be multiplicity of proceedings after constitution of bar, what is your view on?
As we have seen, the rulings of the Board of Advanced Ruling shall be non-binding and would be delivered by revenue officials. This practice, though, is also followed in other countries such as USA, UK, Ireland, etc. It is likely that in most cases, the aggrieved party, whether taxpayer or the department, shall file an appeal to the High Court, where the ruling is in favor of the taxpayer and the revenue is in appeal to the High Court. The assessing officer in the assessment for the subsequent years may not take into account the ruling of BAR and continue to repeat the additions as the matter would be sub judice. In such cases, the taxpayer will have to go through the normal appeal process. Therefore, non-binding nature of bar would lead to multiplicity of proceedings and thereby increase in litigation and would defeat the purpose of providing certainty to the taxpayers.
Anshul, I would like to come in to supplement what has fallen from Neeraj. You see, in the old regime, the ruling given by the AR, while it was binding on the revenue and the taxpayer, but in practice, one actually saw that every other matter was being challenged in a writ petition before the High Court, whether at the instance of the department against whom the ruling was given, or by the taxpayer if the ruling was adverse to the taxpayer. And the High Courts were seized of the matter. And the High Courts, of course, while dealing with a writ against the order of the AR, were looking only to the fact that the order was perverse, the order was not passed taking account of the relevant facts, the relevant law, or following the due process in law. So basically, the constitutional remedy under Article 226 was circumscribed in those situations. But now it is provided that when the ruling is pronounced by the bar, there would be an appeal that is provided. Although the contours of the appeal to the High Court are not yet specified, and the government has said that, or the law presently reads, that in accordance with the scheme to be notified of how the appeal would lie to the High Court, and I'm a little intrigued by the use of these words when they say that the government may make a scheme by notification for the purpose of filing appeal to the High Court so as to impart greater efficiency, transparency and accountability by optimizing utilization of resources through economies of scale and functional specialization, and B, introducing a team-based mechanism with dynamic jurisdiction. Frankly, I am not able to decipher what is meant by this particular provision that is sought to be inserted by subsection 2 in section 245W of the Act, of what will be the basis for filing an appeal to the High Court, but this is what the law presently provides. So if an appeal is to go to the High Court, even on a disputed question of fact, for instance, you've seen in practice that when we go before the AR and we ask the AR to rule whether or not there is a permanent establishment, whether a permanent establishment exists in India. Now the AR had to marshal all the facts, apply the law, and then come to a conclusion one way or the other. Now, whether the High Court will also be traversing the entire gamut of facts and then applying the law, I think is an open question for the time being. But clearly, by making this appealable to the High Court, it is seeking to destroy the finality of the bar ruling, and it will be like any other appeal process, giving it unended duration for the final settlement of the dispute. So I think this is a huge negative so far as this movement from AR to bar is concerned, apart from other considerations.
Thank you, Mr. Vora. It seems from your comments that the taxpayers as well as the consultants are presently scratching their heads. Mr. Jain, please throw some light on the writ petition recently filed before the Delhi High Court challenging the abolition of the AR as unconstitutional. This is basically source-based as per the media reports.
The amended scheme provides that all pending applications along with records would be transferred from AAR to BAR. Also, the relief to be provided by the authority has undergone a qualitative change. That is, the nature of the rulings ceases to be binding on the revenue. UK-based company, therefore, has filed a writ petition before the Delhi High Court, challenging the amendment made by the Finance Act 2021, abolishing the AAR. The petitioner challenged the amendment as unconstitutional and has prayed for reading down of the said amendment so as to prevent its applicability to the pending undisposed of applications which were filed prior to March 28, 2021. The matter is now fixed for hearing in September 21. It is a settled judicial dictum of a statutory construction that an enactment is to be construed prospective unless a contrary appears from the express language or by necessary implication. It is a principle which has its roots in fairness of governmental actions, and a reference may be made to the decision of the Supreme Court in Vatika Township Private Limited for this purpose. Also, applying the principle of promissory estoppel, as has been laid down in the case of Motilal Padampat Sugar Mills Limited, the government is not exempt from its liability to carry out the representation made by it to the taxpayer as to its future conduct, and it cannot, on the ground of necessity or expediency, fail to carry out the promise on the basis of which substantial investment have been made by the non-resident taxpayers in India. Therefore, in our opinion, such taxpayers cannot be subjected to a disadvantage by transferring their pending applications from AAR to BAR for no fault of theirs. In our opinion, there is a case made out for challenging such an action so that their pending application continue with the AR instead of being transferred to BAR.
Thank you, Mr. Jain.
Yeah.
Mr. Vora, this seems to be a very interesting development. Do you think that the High Court will strike down this amendment?
The question will be that I, as a foreign taxpayer, approached the AR, which was an independent, impartial body, where both the taxpayer and the revenues were adversaries. Now, my pending application is to be transferred to a body which will be headed by revenue officials. I cannot expect fair justice from such a body, which is comprised largely of and only of revenue officials. So therefore, I am put at a disadvantage. by shifting the pending matters from the AR to the bar. And I think this will be one of the grounds of challenge before the High Court. Now, the question is, what is the relief that the High Court can grant? We already know that the members of the AR have been sent packing. Today, there is no AR in place. Now, can the High Court direct that the AR be reconstituted? I don't think that is a possibility, at least in my understanding. The question can be that the High Court would say that the pending application should be disposed of by an independent body, not composed only of revenue officials, but on the same pattern as the then AR. Again, seems a difficulty. And then the question of by when do you think such an adjudication will happen? The government will have to constitute a body on the same lines as the pending AR if the High Court is to so direct. That body will have to hear the pending matters, and who knows by when the decision will be rendered by such a body. So I am not sure about the kind of relief that will be available in this writ petition. Of course, it is correct that this move has been challenged as being constitutionally invalid, but the kind of relief that the court will mold, at least, is in the realm of speculation of what exactly should the relief be available to the taxpayer in such circumstances. If it is a transaction that has already been executed, the taxpayer can contend that please accept the transaction that I have reported. But suppose it's a potential transaction or a transaction yet to be entered or a proposed transaction. Clearly, nobody can say that the tax consequences should be as demonstrated by the taxpayer in the application. So I am not too sure of the kind of relief that will be handed out by the High Court in this constitutional challenge to the abolition of the AR. So my view is, of course, moving the AR pending application to the BR puts the taxpayer at a certain disadvantage, and that clearly needs to be redressed. But I have an interesting question to pose to you. Can I, at this stage, be given an option or a right to withdraw my application? Suppose I am not confident of appearing before a body composed of revenue officials. Presently, there is a provision under section 245(3) to say you can withdraw an application within 30 days of filing the same. There is a similar move to abolish the settlement commission. Now there the assessees have been given an option to withdraw their application pending before the settlement commission. There is no such move so far as the AR is concerned. But I would think that in such circumstances, the assessee should be given that option, and the 30-day period that is provided in section 245(3) should be regarded as directory and not mandatory. I think the legislature will do well and the bar will do well to allow people to withdraw and go before the assessing authority. So that's another aside to the present controversy.
Thank you, Mr. Vora, for your comments. See, the aforesaid discussion and perusal of the provisions regarding the AR shows that it had all the desirable features of a good system, such as it consists of members who are independent of the tax department, the binding nature of the rulings on taxpayers, and the revenue prescribed time limit of 6 months for disposing the application. Timeline and certainty are the two areas of concerns to be taken care of by the newly introduced amendments in order to increase the effectiveness of advance rulings, considering that globally, rulings are issued by the authorities within 3 to 6 months. So far as certainty is concerned, the amendments may not meet the objective of reducing the litigation and providing certainty to investors, as has been pointed out by Mr. Vora lucidly. Since the right of appeal is available to the tax department as well as the taxpayer, therefore, the bar may function as a normal litigation body and not a body preventing disputes. Therefore, it needs to be seen whether the said amendment will soothe the nerves of the MNCs which already dread the long-drawn litigation system in India. It will also be interesting to await the outcome of this recent writ petition, which Mr. Vora has discussed in detail. And we will have to see whether the High Court actually holds that this amendment is unconstitutional or not. With this, we have come to the end of the session, and we hope that you have found it to be intriguing and thought-provoking. Take care, have a good day, and stay safe.